ancient documents, stuff, text, books, records left over from a long time ago. That's kind of like their shooting script. They've been using it to basically go around the solar system and take pictures of stuff that they have intimations exist out there but don't have scientific proof.
Okay, so you're talking about ancient texts. What kind of ancient texts? Do you know the names of them? Have you seen them? Are they at all out in the public domain?
Yes and no. And I'm trying to now remember the specifics because there's so much mythology that in fact as you begin to get into it looks more like mangled history. Mm-hmm. We do know, for instance, that Himmler set up a whole section of the SS to do nothing but go around the world and steal all the good stuff, all the ancient stuff. Right. In fact, I was so anticipating when Spielberg came out with the film, Raiders of the Lost Ark, that he was going to really blow the doors off and show us that the Ark and all the stuff the Nazis were intrigued with was not something out of the Old Testament. It was, in fact, ancient technology buried on this planet, accessible from previous epochs of civilization, some of whom could have built spaceships and gone to Mars and done the stuff we see there. But that's not the direction he went.
Okay, but you're saying that's true.
Well, I'm saying it's possible.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's true. I'm saying it's possible.
Okay.
And remember, a lot of this has to do with perception. You know, there's an old cliche that politics is 99% perception. It doesn't matter if something is true. If politically people perceive it to be true and then act upon that belief, that can make it true. Mm-hmm. So let's say that these two groups who have access to secret information, ancient texts, the Nazis and the Masons, that they believed that there once was a civilization on Mars, for whatever reason. And they went there when they controlled the space program looking for that evidence. And bingo, they found it. That 21st century, I was 20th century then, confirmation then validates the hints and rumors and intimations in those ancient texts.
Sure. So
but the text was
are you positing that the Nazis had a space program?
No, no.
No.
They wanted to. They were building toward it.
Okay.
I'm looking now very seriously into the possibilities for that kind of technology that early on. What I find is a very interesting pattern as we get deeper and deeper into the whole Nazi era, who they were, what they believed, where they came from, their lineal roots, which goes back much further, it looks like, hundreds of years than the brief flurry just after World War I leading up to World War II. The Nazi philosophy, the idea that human beings are not from this planet, that there's this special race of Aryans, Aries, Mars, duh, that may in fact be grounded in some ancient documents which have been super secret, kept and revered and deified almost, is not beyond reality. I just don't happen to have copies with me this afternoon. I'd love to see some.
Okay, are you in touch with scholars, for example, that are specializing in that area?
Absolutely. In fact, one of them is a really cool guy that you guys should interview. His name is Joseph Farrell.
Okay.
He is in South Dakota. He will be here in January. He's coming here so we can have he's an Oxford scholar. He's an Oxford PhD. Mm-hmm. He's written 5 books on this subject. He meticulously footnotes, documents, tracks, references, unearths amazing memos and a paper trail. And he has given me, as a serious scholar, who also is a pretty nice guy, an amazing new window on the antecedents for the Nazis that the U.S. government brought over, buried in the core of our own space program, who seem to have had their own agenda, apart from Eisenhower, Kennedy, and the American people.
Okay, so you say, what do you say, Werner von Braun? Mm-hmm. You say...
Kurt Debus.
I'm sorry?
Kurt Debus.
Okay.
Who seems to have been somehow involved in efforts to create an amazingly interesting alternative rocket technology that's not rocket-based for space travel.
Free energy based?
Field propulsion.
Torsion based?
Field propulsion,
Okay.
which is a way of manipulating space-time. So on the one hand you get anti-gravity, on the other hand you get free energy.
Okay, so when was he operating?
Kurt Debus?
Yeah.
From paperclip through the entire Apollo program.
So this is the end of the World War II.
World War II, through the 50s, into the 60s, into the 70s, and he was made the head of Cape Canaveral / Cape Kennedy after Kennedy was assassinated. And he has this entire secret background that never once has come out in any official document from NASA or any other place.
Now, how do you know about him?
Because of Joseph Farrell and his
Oh,
stunning
okay.
research. He's got German documents. He reads German. That helps. You know, you've got real scholarship. We have always been, those of us looking at this cutting edge of the transition between fake history and real history, we've always been limited by the fact that there have been basically a field of amateurs. Some of them are talented amateurs, some of them are idiot amateurs. I have a phrase which of course has been made true over and over again, amateurs can get you killed. But people like Farrell are not amateurs. And when they have turned their expertise in scholarship, trained at a place like Oxford, on this problem, you wind up with 5 amazing books that document page after page after page a real hidden history, the alternatives to what the Nazis were doing technologically and politically, and how they almost seamlessly continued by going from one set of sponsors, i.e. Hitler et al.,
Right.
to another set of sponsors, i.e. the U.S. government et al., without even a break for lunch.
Okay.
And in the book, we have this stunning picture of von Braun and all these paperclip scientists standing under a kind of a cute Western motif. It's a sign hung on spindles up above the assembled scientists. And it's a UFO. It's an actual cutout in the shape of an unidentified flying object / saucer craft.
Okay.
And in the middle of it, there's this big swastika.
Oh,
This is in the United States of America after we won the war.
right.
And these guys are on shore leave away from White Sands into El Paso. This was a curio shop. It's called Bob's Curio Shop. And the photographs, the enlargements are in the book. And of course, the reason that the swastika on it is so stunningly important, as we describe in rather great detail in the book, is because the swastika was a symbol that Hitler stole from history, going all the way back to the Vedas, this ancient Indian tradition that talks about spacecraft and nuclear weapons and vimanas and all kinds of astonishing high-tech stuff back at a time when there should be no such high-tech stuff. And what Hitler did was to take it, co-opt it, and use it for his own political and propaganda purposes very consciously, because what the swastika is an insight into an entire different level of reality, which I term hyperdimensional physics, out of which you get, on the one hand, if you really do it right, anti-gravity, making rockets obsolete, and then free energy, making centralized power plants and centralized power and the control of people through the price of oil also obsolete. So on both hands, you've got under proven now Nazi research and development efforts during and after World War II. You've got the keys to liberating civilization all over this planet. 6 billion people freed. And someone is sitting on that truth, and it's one of those 3 groups running NASA secretly, the Nazis.
The Nazis' line or lineage continued on to this day, is what you're saying.
Yes, even now.
And
as
we
speak.
have descendants running NASA?
Sure.
Okay. Is that okay?
I don't know who they are.
You don't?
Because when the old guard died, or retired and then died, they didn't say, oh, and this guy coming in to fill my place, he's also a card-carrying party member of the Nazi National Socialist Party. So what you have is a philosophy that doesn't identify itself. They've gotten more sophisticated. They realized after the debacle of World War II that maybe people really weren't going to take to that kind of overt. So what we've had now in this country, and you just look around, you have the creeping fascism. You have the Nazi philosophy in in every bedroom, under every roof, in every public communique. You have people trying to look into the camera and tell us with a straight face, it is constitutional to read all our emails, to listen to all our phone calls, to tap our telephones, to eavesdrop, to have the cable guy come in and look around to see if you're doing anything suspicious. This is right out of Nazi Germany.
Yeah.
And it's not confined